Tommy's gonna taste the gin so that you don't have to. Let's just save your money, yeah, that's what Tommy wants. Minimal dilution, cause we wanna taste the gins. But if the gins are bad, then we will throw them in the bin. Now let's hand it over to Tommy, who is gonna taste. He's gonna get all rowdy and shout up the place.
Howdy partner, and welcome back to Tommy Tastes, the channel where I try the gin so that you don't have to. Saddle up, get on your horse and drink that gin neat. It's gin time!
Let me buy you a gin, I got gin in the bank.
This week, so exciting, we're presenting one of my favourite gins. Do I say that every week? Possibly. Well, it's Drumshanbo's Gunpowder Irish Gin. Possibly the prettiest bottle of gin. I love the design of this. It's got that classic kind of slightly Asian perfume bottle-like finish. The label artwork, this apparently is a jackalope, which is a mythical creature. It's a cross between a jackrabbit and an antelope that's said to inhabit Drumshanbo, which is a tiny weeny town in Ireland. And probably most famous for this gin that comes from the Shed Distillery and the mind of this guy called PJ Rigney? I'm not too sure. Sorry PJ if I got your name wrong there. What you need to know about this gin is that it takes 12 botanicals, juniper heavy, really relying on more Asiatic, Oriental style botanicals. Yeah, but what that means is that most of the spices or citrus fruits maybe that we associate with gin do tend to come from Asia or the Orient anyway, so that's not overly surprising. But probably the main ingredient, and what Drumshanbo gives the name of the gin to, is the gunpowder green tea, which comes all the way from China.
Tease me, tease me, tease me, tease me, baby.
We've had tea gins before if you think of Roku gin, but this one has got a bit more freshness to the tea and a bit more spiciness than maybe we got with those kind of slightly more delicate Japanese teas that went into Roku. So should make for something very interesting. Another really distinctive feature about this gin is the fact that it's using both traditional distillation, so boiling the botanicals in spirit in a copper pot still, but also vapour infusion distillation as well. And I'll pop a link in the description to this video reminding you exactly of what vapour distillation is for all you distillation dorks out there. What it puts in terms of the different chambers of the still in order to get the vapour infusion right is more of the lightweight botanicals, so things like the citrus, like the green tea that really go into this, and all of those interesting bits and pieces. Whereas things like the caraway seed, the coriander seed, the juniper, that's all put into the spirit mix that's boiled. So we should have something that is both full-bodied, but also very fragrant as well, and very light and aromatic, which is what the vapour infusion gives to it. One point to talk about before we taste this gin is I have had this gin before, but once again, haven't had it for possibly the best part of 4 years, and I have completely forgotten what this tastes like. Let's crack on and taste this biatch!
She made us gins to drink, we drank them, got drunk.
As ever, pre-poured, what I've got here is my poncy little whiskey tasting glass, and in it, a lovely 0.2 cl measure of Drumshanbo's Gunpowder Irish Dry Gin. So, let's get our nose in there and give it a good whiff. It's got a very similar nose to the Suntory Roku gin. The tea does really make itself known. It feels both herbaceous, spicy, but kind of zesty as well. And that's really, really nice. Very playful, very interesting. But you can feel behind it, there's a real kind of full juniper note, a nice kind of citrus, nice kind of slightly more licoricey vibe that's coming from things like the caraway seed.
Drink the gin,
drink the gin.
First thing to say is I am a fan of this gin. Nice and full body. You get a real mouthful in there. It's really fragrant. The coriander comes out way more on the palate, and maybe that's interacting with the kind of spiciness of the tea. But I feel like I've almost got this kind of Thai aromatic that's really springing out. And that could also be to the kaffir limes that go into this as well. But it feels kind of like I'm cooking a Thai green curry or something. And it's got this lovely Asian aromatic in my mouth. That sounded rude for all matter of reasons. I apologise. Something else that I should probably note about this as well is it does try to infuse kind of Ireland and Asia as well. But the only real native Irish botanical that's used in this gin is something called meadowsweet, which you may have seen if you've been out on walks in the countryside before. It's kind of like a fluffy white flower, but I don't know what it tastes like or what it smells like. So I have to confess that what it brings to the gin, I couldn't tell you. But it's nice, so let's not even think about the meadowsweet. Let's just bask in those Asiatic flavours and get an ice cube in there and really work out what happens when we start diluting and start to make things a little more interesting.
A polite reminder at this point to always drink responsibly. Do drink responsibly, do not drink dry, do not have fun, do not do anything, do not drink.
I really like this. Now what I'm finding is there's a lot more grapefruit and has a really nice kind of spicy note, still from that coriander and the green tea that really enforce this very, very well. Now let's see how it goes with some dilution.
Drinking play, you slag.
So I've struck across a problem now, and this is what I tried not to bring to the table from when I tried it all those years ago. I don't think this gin withstands dilution terribly well. I still think you get a nice coriander note coming out there, but I feel like the tea gets lost and I don't get the citrus quite right. And I'm not sure why it doesn't dilute terribly well, because it's got such body, such aroma, and it just gets a bit lost. And I think it might be the vapour infusion that plays. I think maybe those slightly more high-end aromatics that you get, things that we were talking about, like the lime, like the grapefruit, like the tea, just once you start diluting it, it just doesn't work properly. I feel like I've been mean about this gin now, but I don't want to be mean about it because I really like it. I don't think it's got the clarity where necessarily you can isolate the botanicals, but like we talked about with bathtub gin, the sum of all of those parts create this beautiful, magnificent thing that is gourmet worthy. It really is. And I would think about even pairing this with food. If you were having like an Asian salad or something like that, or I don't know, something like satay, maybe to like lift from the slightly kind of fatty sauce, this would be really, really nice just on some ice. Just the dilution doesn't quite work for me. And that's a shame because I know the people that buy this bottle will be people who like how ornate and pretty it is. And I think they're people that don't care quite so much about exactly what the gin tastes like. They just want to drink something that has a pretty bottle. And that's what this kind of is. And that's such a shame because the product that's in there is so fucking good. I cannot stress that enough. I will put a link in the description of this video to a video I watched of Irish people tasting this for the first time. And they could not stand it neat. And that really upset me because I love it neat so much. But the moment you started diluting it, they were in love with it. And what they were diluting with was so unpleasant. It was an entire bottle of tonic with a chili as a fucking garnish. What the fuck is a chili doing as a garnish? It makes no bastard sense. The chili itself won't impart any flavour because it's got a waxy outer coating. Unless you cut the chili up, it just looks nonsensical. And when you're drowning it in tonic, it doesn't make any fucking sense. You can't taste how good this gin is. Other things I saw were like really hideous cocktails where it was just all about lime juice and thyme and all kinds of nasty. I'm not sure if you can make this into a cocktail, and if you can, I don't know what cocktail it would be in. It just works so beautifully by itself, so have it by its fucking self. So I suppose the question that we should be asking ourselves is, how does Drumshanbo's Gunpowder Irish Gin, that's a fucking mouthful, sorry, how does Diggig compare to other Oriental inspired gins? Particularly when we've already talked about things like Suntory Roku Gin and Ophir, I'm never too sure how you pronounce this gin, and now Diggig. How does it compare? Well, I think the truth is that Diggig is probably the best of those Oriental gins. I love Suntory's Roku Gin, and I think at £25 for a 70cl bottle, there is not much better out there, with the possible exception of something like Tanqueray No. 10. Ophir is really muddled and really dull and feels a bit musty for my taste, and well, that's just not any good. It's like going to a Chinese takeaway and all you can taste is MSG. It just doesn't float my boat. However, what Diggig does is it brings this whole new freshness and really lifelike vibe to that Oriental market. Now, it's not as cheap as Suntory Roku. So this is a 50cl bottle, which I think is the perfect size for what it is. But it's about £25, and that's normally on offer, which means at that offer price of £25, for a 70cl bottle, you're probably looking around the £35 mark, which puts it in the leagues of things like Gin Mare and like Silent Pool as well. Silent Pool, I think, is much lighter and less interesting than this. So always buy this over Silent Pool. Would I buy it over Gin Mare? Possibly not. Would I buy it over Suntory Roku? Probably yes. Make of that what you will. Catchphrase ahoy! Ding 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 ding. Yes, thank you for that. What Drumshanbo tells us more than anything is cut out tea entirely. Just put your tea in gin in the future. This is incredible, and although I've been snobby about it and say that it doesn't stand up to Dilution, I think this is still a great product and something that everyone should enjoy. And even if you get the gin and you think it's a little bit average, you've got this bottle to look at for the rest of time. The bottle's worth like 25 quid in itself. I'd pay a fortune for this shit. Get the bottle!
Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. What? Like and subscribe. What? Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like. What? Unnecessary bass.